All right. Hey guys, this is Chris from chriscantu.com, and I am joined by my man, Ronin Man MGTOW. You know him on YouTube as Ronin Man, and he's here with me. As I'm kind of spreading my wings a bit in this community, I wanted to reach out to other MGTOW, YouTubers that I really look up to, and I really enjoy their content. And I wanted to pull them in for like a little bit of a one-on-one session where we can get to know each other a little bit better over video for you guys out there in the MGTOW community. So Ronin, man, I'm super excited for this video, man. How you doing today, bro?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I'm out by the pool, as you see in the videos often. So we're just had a nice like hour and a half swim. It felt so good, man. And like one of my friends, the guy I talked about, the 89-year-old guy, he's out here. I see him every morning, but he's moving. So I got a chance to talk to him, and it was good. He's going to set me up with he's into longevity. He's into he does all this like longevity stuff. A really positive guy. So yeah, just things are good, man.
Nice. And Ronin, you know, so many things I like about your content and the wisdom that you drop and the red pills that you drop like almost on a daily basis. And one of the things that I really enjoy about your videos is just the views. And I think a couple of people had commented on that on the review video I did on your channel, is that just the live action, the first person kind of walking around, getting these incredible views of Bangkok. And then just mixing that with like your knowledge and your wisdom about life and about men and the struggles that we go through and the highlights that we have to take advantage of. And then just mention Ronin, man, because you look like you're pretty ripped there. Maybe tell some of us like a little background, like how old you are, how long you've been living outside of the United States, and really like maybe just a bit about like a little bit about your MGTOW background as well.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I'm. Let's see here. You can see me kind of a little bit here. I'm 52 years old, and yeah, I've been
beast mode, man.
What's that?
So you're like beast mode. You're going beast mode at 52.
No, dude, I don't take anything. You know, I don't take anything. I don't even take aspirin or vitamins. You know, just basically eat vegetables. I got a good. You'll see when you come. I got a good schedule of what I eat. You know, I try to eat good food. I do a lot of walking, so that's why I do those walking videos, because you know it's like for me that's like a big deal for me. Like walking every day. You know, it's like it's one of the things that it's a consistent, healthy thing that a guy can do, and whatever age you are or whatever health you are, you can always walk, right? So walking is a great. I found that years ago, you know, that really helped me to, you know, I found out actually Steve Jobs did all his meetings, his serious meetings were all walking meetings. And that's something that I've done for years. Anybody who's serious, like if you come visit, you know, you come here, you're going to see we're going to be walking, because that's where all the good ideas come. There's two places I get my good ideas. Is one of them is in the shower and the other one is walking. So, you know, I basically like, I live I try to stay close to the ground and figure life out. You know what I mean? That's like my thing, you know. I've been overseas since 89. I speak Chinese and Japanese both, and lived in China and Japan for a long time. And I had a lot of time to kind of decompress and to kind of get in fact, I was thinking about doing an episode about this, about solitude, because solitude is where a lot of, I think I think it's what men are missing. One of the main things in Western society is that solitude and that chance to kind of to be alone and to really to let the ideas come, you know, like whether you're a poet, you're a writer, or you're just trying to figure your life out, right? I think I'm not anti-Western society, you know what I mean? Like I'm very pro-action and I'm pro-social and everything, but at the same time, I think that deep, like that, almost like a black hole or death, or like this is what a man is. You know, there's a great book called The Way of the Superior Man, and I read that years ago, and it really, like, it's not a perfect book. I don't agree with everything in it, but one thing I really agree with it is that a man is like death, or like a black hole, or like space, and a woman is like more like light or a fire, or like dancing. You know, and those two things, like man, I think what's really missing in Western guys is they're almost like girls, you know, they can't stop talking. They can't stop chattering. If there's silence, they can't sit there, you know, and I think that's not a small thing. It's not a small thing. It's a very, very big thing, because that's where you find yourself, you know. So that's what I do. I really find myself overseas, and I have the time, you know, and it's allowed me also, the new ideas that I get from living overseas has allowed me to kind of put together a lot of ideas that I don't think I would have put together if I was, you know, always in the States, right? With my family, with my friends, you know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
it just overpowers you where you can't, you know, you look at the great thinkers, right? You look at the great poets, right? They sat in the desert. They were in the fucking desert, and they wrote
Right.
poems in caves. There's a great book I read in college. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I'll find it. And I'll put it in the link below. But it's a lot of the great thinkers. They took that time to go alone in the desert and to think and let their own ideas germinate, let themselves come out, because who you are and what you need, it's inside of you. You don't have
Right.
to get it from somewhere else. You know, education is great, but it's like inside, you know where you're supposed to be, right? You fucking know, you know, but you don't find it if you don't have that peace, right? You know, and that's why I like about your channel is like I think you're on the path. You know, I see you, like when I heard your first one about your dad, I thought, you know, this guy's on the path. Like he's looking deep within, right? And like that's where the good shit comes, you know. That's where it's
Yeah.
not from copying everybody else. It's not from quoting everybody else. It's like comes from within. The other stuff is not bad. It's good, but it's, you know, learning is great. Education is fantastic, but men have it within us, you know. And I think a lot of guys, they're losing that.
Yeah, I agree, man. So much knowledge you just dropped there, from walking to where your best thoughts come from, to, you know, Western males today just being very feminized and very living in an entertainment society where the constant distractions, constant screens, and it wasn't really till I got away from the screens and spent time in solitude, in quiet, by myself, in my own thoughts. Now I think I've developed it into kind of a tool that I use it. And when I need to think something out, or like think out a new big change in my life, I put some time to think about it and to walk on it. And the answers just kind of come out of the ether, it seems. And it's just one of those tools that as a man, especially as a MGTOW, that you really need to take advantage of. And the knowledge that you're dropping here is like priceless. So I'm curious, Paul. Sorry. I'm curious, Ronin, and we'll need to edit that out. I'm sorry about that.
It's fine, dude. It's fine. I've said it before.
Okay. I'm curious, Ronin. Was there an event that took place? You said '89. You've been living overseas, because I know probably a lot of MGTOW that are based in the United States and Canada. You know, maybe want to go to explore the world, but maybe feel held back by the programming, or just don't have that vision yet. Was there anything that like took place that maybe you could share with us? You know, that. Or was it more just you kind of always knew you needed to get out and see the world? Because I think that'd be helpful for maybe guys to. What was that tipping point, perhaps?
That made me leave. It's a good question. I really don't know. I can say some stories and let me see if I can figure it out. When I was 21, I went to basically a 12-step program, you know. And, you know, I had a big change in my life, you know. And then when I was 22, it was like a big, like realization that I was on the wrong path, you know, drinking and drugs and everything. And, you know, and I was in school, I was in college, but I just realized that, you know, there was no hope on the road I was on. And I remember exactly where I was sitting, actually. I was on the Coast Highway, and I was looking, there was one way I could turn right and I could go and then change my life. Like basically I knew at that moment, like I had to make a change right then. Like this was it, because I don't want to say the exact specifics, but it was a very serious decision I was making. And If I turned left, it was going to my dealer. It was going to the bad side, you know. And if I turned right, I was going to go and tell my family I had a problem, you know, and I was going to make a change. And nobody knew, you know. And so I had kept it very secret. And so, because I was away at school, you know, like I wasn't visible to a lot of the people that cared about me, you know. And but yeah, of course, my good friends, they knew, you know. But a lot of people didn't, like my parents and stuff like that. So I was on that corner, and when I decided to go right, it really opened up my life, because I went back and I told my mom actually first that I had a problem and that I needed help, and that set me on the road of recovery from that stuff. But then what happened was, after that, I really searched within myself, and I really worked as good as I could, as hard as I could, to meet as many, like, one thing you meet it, like, was really interesting, especially back then, it was 1987, in like 12-step programs, as I was a young kid, right? You know, I was 21, 22, and I was meeting these older guys, and they had so much wisdom to share. There was all these older guys in the meetings. They had been to jail. They had done all this stuff. They had seen, you know, a lot of them were successful businessmen too, you know, and they had done a lot of stuff. So I just like glommed onto them. And I just like most of my friends were like in their 40s, 50s, 60s. And here I was like 22. And I just like listened to them and asked them questions, you know, for years, and did what they said, because these guys didn't fuck around. So if they asked me to do something, I didn't do it. You know, they weren't going to say anything else. You know, that was it. They gave me that one chance, and like I had that chance. And they don't have time for people that don't, you know what I mean? They're not going to share their deep innermost stuff, best ideas, if I don't do my part, right? So I really learned that give and take it is with people with wisdom, is I had to be willing to do stuff that I wasn't comfortable with and didn't understand. And even if it, you know, the other thing is not everything works in life, right? So you try shit and it doesn't work. And the thing is you have to have that wisdom where you say, wait a second, if I do the same stuff I always did, I'm going to get the same stuff I always got, right? So I got to try this stuff. And even if it doesn't always work, you know, like I'll read a whole book just to get one good idea. And a lot of people, they'll read a book and say, oh, there's shit ideas in here, but there was one really good idea, right? That's the way you have to look at life if you want to improve yourself. You can't just look at like, hey, I'm going to find this one place where there's going to be tons of good ideas. It's like, no, I got to listen to a lot of stuff, and I got to put my own energy into it. And then a lot of it doesn't even work, because it won't work for me, or won't work. You know what I mean? I won't be ready for it. I won't be able to see it yet, you know, because that's a lot of stuff. Someone can hand some wisdom about women to you, but if you're not ready to hear it, it ain't going to hit home. And it's not your fault. It's like you have to just like wait until you're ready, right? You know, and then at some point in the future, you will be ready, and that wisdom will make sense to you, right? So I think that decision set me on a road. And then after that, I started to want to, like, I just didn't really care about what people cared about, like everybody around me. You know, like here I was in school, I was in business school, everybody was talking about business. It was the 80s, you know, it was like Wall Street, all my friends were Wall Street. And I just had no interest in that. Like I just suddenly just had no interest. And I didn't have any interest in school either. So like it was really hard for me. Like taking the red pill was weird, because I just, it was very uncomfortable to not care about things that I cared about before, right? Because see, the thing is, when you take the red pill, you don't know what the red pill is. You're going down a road, you're going down a journey, and you don't know where the fuck it's going to go, right? And it's really scary to let stuff go that you think is really important, right? But I just let it go, and I just said, okay, I don't care about school, I don't care about making money, what am I going to do? And then I just kind of like had no idea. Like, what am I going to do with my life? I just didn't care. And I would just kind of go and help people. I helped a lot of people. I went to like hospitals and volunteered, and I like drove people around because I had a nice car. I drove everybody everywhere to meetings. I just kind of like helped a lot of people for years for free. I just like, that's all I did. Like basically I worked, I went to school, and I helped people, right? And then finally there was like one moment when I was realizing that I always wanted to go travel, you know? And like, it's just all of a sudden it just came to me. It's like, that's what I want to do. I've always wanted to do it, but I just never was able to get my shit together. And so that was what I finally bought my first ticket overseas. And then I started to go overseas, and I started to see things and see more. And then finally I knew
you know, that when I was a kid, one of my teachers, right, she had been a missionary in China, and so she had made us read The Good Earth in sixth grade, actually, no, fifth grade in school. But I never forgot it. I learned some Chinese characters back then, and I made some wooden things, you know, like kids make, you know, out of the Chinese character for love and everything. And I was always kind of interested in China, and so I thought, well, I got to go over there, right? And then I guess the thing was I bought a ticket. I had met a girl when I was in Greece. I went to Greece, and I met some girl on a nude beach, and she was dating her. She was from Sweden, and so I wanted to go meet her, but I knew I didn't want to get married. She wanted to get married, so I thought, well, if I get a ticket to Sweden, then I'm going to get married to this girl, right? And so I better get a ticket around the world so I can leave this girl, so that I can not get married and I can go on my journey, right? So that's what I did. I bought a ticket around the world, and so I went to see her, and then I quickly realized this is not where I want to be, and I ended up you know, making a lot of other girlfriends in Sweden or whatever you call them, and then I guess the thing that really changed was a friend from high school. He was over at Beijing University, and the Tiananmen Square uprising was happening. And so, you know, that was when the wall had fallen in Eastern Europe. You know, the communism was falling, and there was all this excitement going on, man. You can't even believe how exciting it was back then. Like, the wall was falling, people were going crazy. People that were slaves were like becoming free, you know, and like the oppression and people getting shot from running over, trying to climb over the wall, and like people like giving everything to get their kids out, and like spies. And the Cold War was a very intense time, very intense. Every night you get home and watch the news, it was like the Russians are coming, you know. And I was very interested in Russia, so I went to Russia. I went to, you know, Red Square, and I had always had in my mind I wanted to go to, I had to go to Russia, right? So either way I went. So I went to Sweden, and then I started seeing the wall fall and everything. And then my friend was at Beijing University, and then he contacted, and then I found out that the students were uprising. So I thought China was going to fall. So I thought, well, hell yeah, I want to be part of that. Like, I want to be part of the protests, you know. I knew they had like police and tanks and everything. And so I thought, I want to go fight with the students. So I went to China to join the Tiananmen Square uprising. And then when I got there, it was too late. I took the Trans-Siberian through Russia. And, you know, there was no internet then, right? So you had no up-to-date information, basically, especially international. Right. And you can't believe how little information there was back then, man. It's like a joke, right, really. And so I thought it was still going on. I thought it hadn't happened yet. So I got there in Beijing, and then it was already over. And I was like one of the only foreigners in China because everybody had left. All the students had been shot. You know, there was thousands of people killed. And so I got there, and then people were like, and then I guess the other thing that happened was, here I am, this kid who's like looking for adventure and looking for, like, you know, himself, right? And then, you know, I remember one time, a couple things happened to me. One of them was I was in Tiananmen Square, right? And the thing had just happened. They had cleaned up the concrete, and someone ran up to me and handed me their business card. It was a reporter, and he said, "Do you know what happened here?" And he handed it to me. And as soon as he handed it to me, everybody around us, everybody pulled a stick. They had like a stick hidden in their clothes, like a club, and they started beating the shit out of this guy. And like, I don't know if they killed him, but it was like pretty bad. Like they like probably killed the guy. They were like, because he was trying to tell me what was happening, what had happened, right? And so I realized that everybody around me was undercover, you know, cop, right? And they beat the shit out of him, and I didn't know. I almost started. I think at the time I started laughing because it was so weird to me. Like, I was so surprised by everything. And then somebody else came up to me and they invited me to their house, and they told me we had a quiet Beijing duck dinner, and they told me what had happened. They told me everything, and then people started telling me. People started, because I was a foreigner, right? And they wanted me to get the word out. They wanted me to tell the world what had happened. And so what it was for me, so that was what it was for them, right? And that's what I did, right? But people will always try to get you to do what they want you to do, right? But the key is you have to, like, let it in, but you have to also decide what you're going to do. Like, one example was they wanted me to tell the world. They wanted me to go over and become a, you know, like an anti-communist kind of guy. And also, before I went to Russia, I remember people suddenly started giving me Bibles because they didn't have Bibles in Russia. They wanted me to smuggle Bibles in, and I'm not Christian, you know. So I was kind of like, you know, people wanted me to do stuff, and it's good stuff what they wanted me to do. You know what I mean? It's not bad stuff, but I realized it wasn't exactly me, you know. But I also realized that there's this world out there where like serious shit's going on, like radical shit's going on, and I'm in the middle of it. Like I see a guy like almost get killed right in front of me, and my friend was watch thousands of people shot, you know, and run over by tanks, and here I am in the middle of this thing, and people were like telling me stuff like it's like life or death, man. It's like fucking life or death, man. Seriously, like no shit, life and fucking death, guys. It's out there, you know. And so that woke me up that the world is like a big place, you know. That and there's and I could see that my journey was to learn more, you know. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to see more, you know. So it's not that it was anti anything. It was like I wanted more. There's so much fucking more, and there's so much more like real life out there than what I was living, my small little life, you know. And so that really would kick me off and got me. And since then, I've done so many things like similar type of crazy, like just fucking insane, interesting situations I've gotten into. It's because I'm open to them. You know, I want to find out more, right? So, you know, I'm not like stuck on one idea. It's more like a never-ending adventure to find out about myself and find out about life.
Right. And just great stories, Ronin. It really sounds like, you know, you started on that red pill path a lot earlier, at least a lot earlier than I did. And, you know, you went your own way and you started having adventures and going on this spiritual path and just taking in everything with an open mind, as we all should. And, you know, a big part of my journey is just deprogramming from, you know, the matrix and taking that red pill and then figuring out life in this whole new world, and realizing I have the whole world as my oyster, being in the position of being a MGTOW, you know, not having a wife and kids, not having, you know, a lot of debt or a lot of, you know, obligations here, where I can really be in a place where I can look to travel the world and gain those adventures and kind of share that with the world on this channel. I'm curious, as you're going through this path, I mean, you know, I'm sure you're taking down, you know, having a lot of girlfriends, having a lot of opportunities to kind of, you know, settle down and go on that path of that traditional path that we're kind of brought up. At what point do you think, or was it a conscious decision, do you think, or was it just kind of, you know, going on your spiritual path? But what do you think it was, that turning point that you said, you know what, I'm gonna hold off on any serious commitment, or you know, or maybe just going through like me, where I kind of tried it a few times and it didn't work out, and then I kind of decided to go my own way. But I'm curious, just kind of your MGTOW story, and you know, when did you discover that you were MGTOW and that you were kind of making this kind of firm decision to go your own way?
Right. I think it was a number of things. I can tell you a couple stories that was interesting that, you know, influenced me. One of them was I was in Sweden, and there's a 2-week walk you can do from southern Sweden to northern Sweden. It's called the Kungsgatan, the King's Road, right? So I was doing this road with this German guy who had the worst stutter I've ever seen in my life. Like, he could not, like, a sentence took him forever. And then there was another guy. It was the three of us, 3 guys. And the other guy was like a homeless Swedish guy. But he was a really interesting guy. He'd been all over the world, and really cool guy, good English. And so the 3 of us were like out there doing our thing, going up the Kungsgatan. And we stopped in this small town, and we got in. We took this. There's like a river that goes through town, right? And so the river had these tours, right? There's like, you could take a tour of the river, riverboat, right? And it was like a real fast running river, and they had these. It wasn't like a boat; it was more like a huge canoe kind of thing, right? And so I get on the boat, and the girl who's the tour guide, she's this absolutely gorgeous, 17-year-old girl, right? And so she's sitting there, and I look at her, and she's so like pure looking, like she's just so gorgeous. She's like absolutely like a fucking angel. Like, seriously, that's the only thing you can say. Like, just perfect in every way. And she's sitting there, And then I'm looking at her thinking, oh my God, because I had my idea of what I could get in life. You know what I mean? Like what was available for me, you know? And she was sitting there, and then I was like falling in love with her on the boat, right? And then all of a sudden she fell out of the boat. She fell into the water. And she like literally, she's like giving us a tour. And so she eats shit out of the boat, and then we save her, right? And then of course she looks even better wet, you know. And
Yeah.
then somebody said to me, she said, this old guy said, you know, that chick, that girl, she's like so in love with you, she fell out of the boat. And I had just met her, right, like an hour, you know, half an hour ago, right? And then so then I was like, what? I was like, no, really, what? And then he said, yeah, she's like the town virgin, right, basically, right? And so then and I was like, whoa, you know. And so at night she came to my tent, right, and we had a wonderful night. And I guess I just realized that I had never imagined, like, this was like a fantasy or something, you know what I mean? It was like this, I'm in this small town, you know, this old man has given me this advice. This girl is an absolutely, if you like beautiful women, she was just like absolutely perfect in every fucking way, right? And huge smile, you know, and just really small town, right? She had probably never been to Stockholm even, right? And the thing is I realized, like, this girl could totally fall in love with me. I guess I just realized that there was so much more out there for a guy, like, you know, for a guy, you know. I kind of had this set mindset of what was available, you know. And I left, you know. I was with her one day and that was it. I left. And it just really, like, experiences like that made me realize that, oh my gosh, you know, there's just a lot out there in this world. And like, and like, my value is not set. It's not a set value, right? Like when I'm at home, when I pull up in a certain car, I have a certain family, I have a set value, right? Either it's very high or very low, right? And it's really difficult to break out of that, you know. But what I realized when I was traveling, when I'm out in the world, is that this is bullshit. Like, this is crazy just to think this is what I am and what I can get, you know. And so that kind of stuff, like, absolutely fried my mind. I can't even tell you. Like, I just, like, I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, like, I would have never imagined that somebody like this would want, you know what I mean? Like, would want me, you know, like, just me. Like, why would she want, you know? And so it was like, and then just traveling and seeing more girls. And I realized that there was, I guess there's girls are in all different situations, you know, like a lot of MGTOWs, the reason why they come to the MGTOW community is because they had unsatisfying situations, right? They're not satisfied with some girl, but a lot of them don't know what's available either, right? So they only know what they got, right? And what you get in life is what you think you can get, and also where you are, right? But there's a lot more out there, and the thing is when you realize how much is out there, you realize, like, why would I want to settle down when there's just so much out there, you know? Like, why would I, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, it's like, I don't know, if you're like next to one tree and you're eating figs or whatever, you know, and it seems really great, but there's a lot of other trees out there. There's a lot of other things to eat, right? There's a lot of other sunsets to watch, right? You know what I mean? So I think that was those kind of experiences. And then I had a lot of experiences that were just crazy. You know, like, if I told people the stories, they like literally wouldn't believe me. Like, they're just insane, you know. But it's just being available and improving yourself and being there at the right time in the right moment and just being available, you know. And I think that I kind of realized that part of it for me was self-defense. Is I realized that what happened for me, I mean, I don't know, this is not everybody, but for me, is like, I ended up having so many girls around me that the only way I could survive is if I either got married to one of them or somehow stop myself from getting married, like somehow stop myself from settling down, you know? So that's when I got The Predatory Female and The Manipulated Man, those two books. And I read those books and I really incorporated, although I didn't have the bitterness those guys had, you know, I didn't have the bitterness, you know, because I had been handed some pretty sweet things in life because of my own, it's not just handed. It was like something that I earned, right? You know, but I earned the ability to be, you know, if you go to Burning Man, you're a fucking Burning Man, right? You're going to have Burning Man experiences, right? You got to get off your ass. You got to be willing to You know, you got to be smart. You got to pick out where you go to the right places. Smart. You know what I mean? But that being said, you get into these situations. So I realize, okay, I don't have the bitterness these guys have. I'm not divorced, you know, but at the same time, there was a lot of wisdom from those books, you know, and I realized like suddenly, like girls did not necessarily have my best interest in mind. You know, they wanted something. I think that was my first realization, is that it wasn't that girls are bad. And my channel is not girls are evil channel. You know, it's more like I realized like they're other human beings and they have completely different programming and different DNA, and they have completely different goals than I have as a guy. And those goals are not necessarily, they're not my goals. You know, I mean, definitely your goals are not my goals, even other guys, right? You know, we all have our own like path in life, right? And what we do, right? You know, and so I realized, oh my gosh, I have to decide what I want. And they know what they want, right? Girls know what they want, right? They're working towards that, right? And I have to know what I want. What do I want? Do I want, you know what I mean? Do I want kids? Do I want a family? Is that important to me? You know, is that like the number one thing? Do I see a married guy and I'm jealous? No, I don't feel jealous, you know. And also I want to say too, it's important for people to know that your desires change over time. So what I wanted in my videos, I often talk about old stories. So things that happened in my 20s and 30s. And those stories don't necessarily motivate me now. So I do have a different mindset now than I had when I was, you know, basically horny 24/7. So you do change over time, and the things that you want change over time, and that's okay. That's good too. You have to know that you physically change, and with that, your goals are going to change, and what you want as a guy is going to change, and what you need as a guy is going to change. And you have to listen to that. Like, again, you got to go into the solitude and find out where it's at. Like, what's it at? Where are you at now? Where should you be going now? Because for me, chasing girls like that would be a waste of time today. Like, I would not do. I'm not into that. You know, but that's what led me to where I am today. And I just like, fuck. I mean, why do I want to settle down? Like, what's the benefit? Like, why would I want to? And you know, I just don't see it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad that you mentioned the predatory female and the manipulated man, because I think when I had started down the MGTOW content creation path a little over a year ago, one of the commenters, he was like, "You have to check out Ronin Man and video on the predatory female," because I'd done a video on the manipulated man. You know, when you combine two, it's just such an eye-opening to read those. I haven't read the predatory female. I have read the manipulated man, admittedly, but just the knowledge you gain in that conditioning breaking, you know, that kind of set me down that path of having a bit of red pill rage. Like you said, just from my recent experiences and the frustration, I should say recent relationships and the frustrations that I had going through those experiences, and especially in my opinion, and we may differ on that, and that's okay. But I think Western women, from what I see, especially here in the United States, have lost their way in a bit and have kind of soured. Just in terms of their doubling down into the matrix and into the entertainment kind of society that we live in, and kind of foregoing that traditional route. So, you know, the reaction to that is, hey, let me see what other options are out there in the world. Is it traveling? Is it going through a bit of red pill rage or red pill depression, so that I can be a better man, so that I can be, you know, live life every day on that path, on that spiritual journey, on the self-improvement journey. And I think a lot of men get caught up in their bad relationships, and admittedly myself, like not having trying a lot of different from a lot of different fruits to see what I want. So I feel like you know, me going out into the world and traveling the world a bit is just part of this spiritual journey that I'm on. And thanks to your videos and thanks to you kind of laying out that wisdom and giving that perspective, I think helped me a lot, and it's helping me. It helps a lot of guys out there, and you know, it's just something that this community that we're building, you know, with the technology that we have today, it was almost like the reaction was almost natural to say, hey guys, you know, because we have that fatherly instinct, and we have the you know, we've had guys help us along the way, and I know you talk about this as well in your videos of older guys that have helped you, you know, when you were younger, kind of come along the way and learn the different routes in life. And I know with my videos, I've tried to, you know, kind of with the little bit of knowledge that I have, like kind of turn around and help other guys learn from my mistakes. And so, you know, I guess, you know, as you were going through your journey, you know, with the Ronin Man channel, great channel. If you haven't done so, subscribe to Ronin Man on YouTube. What was the kind of impetus to make you say, was it the predatory female video, or what was it to kind of say, you know, I want to start sharing this knowledge and this specific specifically for the MGTOW community? Was it an event? Was it just saying, hey, I want to take advantage of technology? Was there other older guys helping you when you were coming up? Like what made you want to start your channel, Ronin Man?
I think, oh, great. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, you know, your channel's awesome too. You know, like everybody should subscribe to Chris Can too. Anybody watching this, you know, listen to the wisdom, you know. And I let's see, what motivated me to start? I think well, I think a lot of people know that I mean, I have a huge network of friends. Like I have a crazy network. Like that's one thing of living overseas is like you meet so many random people. Like you just kind of, it's like, it's crazy the kind of people you meet, right? So through the years, I've met a lot of famous guys and you know, like either musicians or actors or business people, you know, just every kind of person. And like through that, I met one of the top PUA guys. And then, you know, I started, this is back in like way back, you know, and I watched the pickup community, and I could really relate to those guys in a lot of ways because I was a bit of a natural at meeting girls, but at the same time, I learned a lot from watching these young guys try to improve themselves and try to figure out life, right? They were trying to, the real PUAs were really trying their best to improve themselves. And I saw that, and I was like, that's really interesting. Like guys trying to improve themselves on this very socially unacceptable topic, right? So there is nothing out there, right? There's no books. Nobody's supporting you in this, right? Nobody's fucking there to give you a hand job. Like everybody's there to rip you down, right? You're a scumbag, you're a loser. You know? So I knew these guys were fighting against a lot of social pressure, and at the same time, they were filling a need in people. So I met one of the top guys, and he introduced me to a lot of other people, and I ended up meeting a lot of pickup guys. And the reason why I have a different perspective on these guys is because I know these guys. Like I'm friends with these guys, so I know a lot of these guys are very sincere, you know. So let's say, you know, I don't buy their video. Like I know these guys. Like I call them up and we fuck around. And they come visit, you know. So I realized like, wow, there's these communities of guys that are popping up, and I think everybody that's MGTOW is out of their minds if they don't realize that the pickup community really started this whole thing. It was the first thing where guys fucking said, you know, they said, hey, fuck society. I want this, and I'm gonna do it no matter what. I need to figure this out. And I don't care what you think, you know, I'm going to do it. And I like that attitude. I really do, because guys need that, you know, guys need that attitude. So I started to do that. And I was actually originally, I was thinking of actually making a pickup company many years ago, back in '99. And I was going to do that. And then I met one of the top guys, and then I never want to fuck my friends over. I don't want to compete with my friends. So I actually gave it up because of him. I gave it up because I had a friend, and I thought, you know, I don't want to compete with this guy. You know, I'll find something else. So I just kind of like waited, and I was looking around online. I was looking at stuff. A lot of stuff I didn't resonate with completely, you know. But when I saw the MGTOW videos, I saw the first ones, you know, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I like this too. This is interesting. Like, this is like guys basically, well, there's all types, right? There's a lot of different types of MGTOWs, but I saw them as really blazing their own path, men blazing their own path, and trying to figure out life on their own and against all the odds. And I love that kind of shit, you know. So I started watching the MGTOW videos, and I thought, hey, you know what? I can fit in this community. although I'm not a perfect fit in many ways, I realize that I have a lot to give to these guys because and also I share a lot with MGTOW. I'm like thinking like, fuck yeah, I mean, except for the anger, I share like almost everything, basically. And so, so then I started watching the videos and I thought, but I was watching them, I was thinking like, a lot of these guys, a lot of MGTOWs really don't have that much experience with self-improvement. And so like really getting down and improving themselves, like whether it's physically or mentally, they're just kind of starting their journey, right? And they're pissed off, right? And I realized like that I have a lot to give to the community because I've done a lot of studying. I read like all the time. And also I've been on the very, very lonely male path my whole life, of fighting against, like when I had like all those girls back in my 20s at my apartment, like my whole neighborhood hated me. Like literally everybody in my neighborhood hated me, or they were jealous because I just had hundreds of girls coming into my house, all the time, screaming out the windows, I mean, it was a fucking nightmare for my neighbors fucking hated me. Like literally my landlord tried to evict me. And, it was like, because there was just too many girls and I had like, my landlord had 3 sons, right? And here I have all these girls coming up every night and then screaming and stuff when we were having sex, and like that socially is very unacceptable. You know what I mean? Like people just you can't imagine the amount of backstabbing that happens when you're doing that. The amount of jealousy and anger from other guys that happens, and also like kind of worship or what. It's like all these complex, weird emotions that happen, right? But I basically got fucked over by a lot of people that I was trying to help. Like I was always trying to help people. I was trying to help. Like, hey, you want to pick up girls? Let's go out. I'll teach you. Like I'll get some girls to introduce you. Like it's cool. Like don't worry about it. Let's go do it. But what I found is a lot of guys weren't able to take that hard fucking road that you need to do to improve yourself, right? You don't get in shape being a pussy, right? You don't learn how to fucking do stuff without the ability to get through the hard stuff, Even something like yoga, it's fucking super hard in the beginning, man. It's like you're shaking and you're in pain and you're like, and it's like you feel like an idiot, That learning process is a very rough and tumble man fucking thing, And a lot of guys are not willing to do that. And so I realized like that's where it's at. That self-improvement, that serious man fuck society outside with nobody holding your hand kind of improvement is what guys need, because there just are no books for guys. Like every book on the shelf is for fucking manginas as far as I'm concerned. Like it's there's nothing out there. I'm serious. It's a fucking desert, There's very few things out there from spiritual guys and things like that. I'm reading now that Letters to a Young Poet, and that is like there's some real wisdom in that. But it's hard to find. It's very difficult to find for guys. So I realized that I could give a lot to the MGTOW community, and I started making the videos. And I didn't know if I was going to continue, right? And then I was a bit worried because I thought, well, what are the comments going to be? Are they going to be bad? Are they going to rip me down? Is it going to be just a negative thing where they don't understand? And then all I got was good comments, like fucking insane good comments, like people commenting, people like emailing me, people just like really heartfelt. Like I know the difference between somebody who's kissing your ass and somebody who's serious. That's why I have so many friends. That's why I have so many wealthy friends, because I don't kiss ass. Like I'm always myself all the time, 24 hours a day. Like I know who I am and I'm myself. So I don't like somebody, I'm not going to hang out with them, right? Doesn't matter what they have to offer, right? It's like I'm on my journey, right? And when but these comments that I got, they like, these were like sincere, good shit. These were guys like pouring their hearts out and open-minded. And so I realized, this community's got a lot to offer, and I got a lot to offer to this community. So I started making the vids, and then I just started getting more and more good comments. And it was like, where I found myself waking up in the morning, and the first thing I do is read the comments, and I want to see what's on there. I want to see what people ask. I want to see, I'll just say one last thing on this idea was somebody posted the other day on one of the videos that he lives in San Francisco, and his name's Ted. And he said that, every day he knows that he's kind of, just because he's a single guy, he's looked at as a rapist. Like he can walk by a park, and like women, women will like kind of shield their kids. And just as a single guy in his life, he's a sensitive guy who is obviously alert to what's going on. And he's not like writing it off. He's watching, right? And he realizes as a single guy, he's never trusted by society. And he said, and he kind of said in his comment, like, I'm okay with that. Like, that's fine, but it's just kind of stupid, you know, like, and I wrote back and I said, you know, that's not okay. It's not okay that a regular guy who just chooses not to get married is seen as a dangerous person and is seen as a like, let's face it, what's the worst kind of person, right? It's a child molester, right? That's like the worst guy. You go to prison, those are the guys who get really killed and fucked up because they're the worst guys in the whole world. So the average guy is going around working a fucking job, living his fucking life, and he gets looked at like the very worst person in the whole world by complete strangers on a daily basis. That is not fucking okay. Okay? That is not okay. Right? That will never be okay. It's not okay to look at women as everybody as a, you know, whatever the worst thing a woman could do, you know, but and it's not okay to look at a guy like that. And so I think that society has pushed guys, has made guys where they need to look for solutions, because what that guy said is kind of the party line, that it's okay. It's okay to be looked at like the most evil guy in the whole world when he's just walking by a park. Okay? And he said it's okay. It is not okay, and you got to know that it affects you. You got to know that. I'm serious. I'm not saying like a movement. I'm saying like as a man, you need to look in yourself. And when there's these sores, you need to be able to put on the medicine and realize that this affects you. You're not a robot. You're not a machine. You're not artificial intelligence. You're a human being. And when you're looked at like that by strangers for no reason, on a daily basis, randomly throughout your day, that affects you. You need help. You need a place to share. You need a place to talk about it. It's a serious fucking thing. And a lot of stuff is happening to guys. I see this and I'm just like, this is a fucking human rights outrage. You know, that's all you can say. It's a fucking outrage. You know, seriously, like that is a fucking totally like you can't, unforgivable outrage. And guys need to know that they're going through this on a regular basis, and just to be able to put it in a box, right? You don't want to go off like this is not your purpose in life, but it's just like you have to be able to spot these things, and also to pat yourself on the back, have a place that you can talk about it, and then let it go and move on, right? Move on to the rest of your day. Have a great day. Play a video game. Go see a friend. You know what I mean? Call your mom. It's okay, right? But it's like you have to know that that's not okay. You have to know that affects you. You know, and you have to know where you can go, where you can talk about. So that's what I want to provide. Like I see these serious issues, and I want to be able to like be there for guys and say, you know, and be able to point out the obvious to me at least.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. Some of the articles that I see coming out of the UK, where you know women like run over their boyfriends in a drunken rage, and then they get like 3 months probation, and they're leaving the courtroom like smiling and laughing. Like it's gotten really bad. There was an interesting story you mentioned about the guy in San Francisco. Just as a side note, a side story, I have been in a park because I lived in San Francisco for about 10 years. And I think I was reading a book. I was waiting for a friend, but I was just at this empty park. And like a dad and I guess a son or something came up and started playing. And the dad kind of mentioned something like, you know, it's kind of weird you're hanging out here by yourself at this park. Like you just might want to think about that. You know, at some point, and at the time I didn't really put it together, but now, you know, based, you know, with that comment that Ted left, it kind of reminds me of that aspect where if you just choose to be by yourself, you're kind of looked at as, you know, only a negative aspect. You know, you're either a pervert, or you're a child molester, or you're just, you know, you're a misogynist, or you know, you're all these bad things that mean that you can't get with women. And I think a lot of MGTOW stand firm in the fact that they can get women. They just choose not to settle down with one. And that's what I find a lot is that like these MGTOWs, they're not, you know, most of them aren't like these not, you know, these not good looking guys. They're like good looking guys that have maybe gotten too many women, and they got kind of tired of it. It's interesting that you point out, that aspect, and going back to kind of the PUA, and I think that's where I kind of started getting into, where it was men kind of getting together in this like fight club, or like this, especially when the technology was there, like forums, like posting in forums of like, how to kind of game, how to learn game. And now, 10 plus years later, 15 years later, we're on these platforms talking about how to get away from women. So it's an interesting dynamic. But I think more so, and I agree with you, Ronin, that MGTOW for me, and I think the type of content that I want to put out moving forward is really that self-improvement, that really community of let's all get better. Let's all just be the badass that we are, go on crazy adventures, like really live life to the fullest, because it's so short. And then also, like for me, and types of videos I want to put out is like a spiritual aspect or a spiritual journey, and things that I've learned on my spiritual journey along the way. And so I think kind of moving forward, and what I would want to see for MGTOW is just us getting together and really creating a community, a strong community of strong men, and we're all here to help each other. We're all brothers in this kind of matrix that we kind of call it the matrix. But there is bright light. There is a place that you can get to, and it's only going to be found inside of you. It's not somewhere outside of you, like we said kind of in the beginning of the video. It's looking inside of you and being the best man that you can be, being on that spiritual path, and then getting to a place in life where you've worked hard, you know the game, and then you just play the game to your advantage, and not to your disadvantage, and kind of deprogram yourself from all those disadvantages that we go through. So I'm curious, like what are your thoughts in terms of where do you see this community going, this MGTOW philosophy, as the platforms, the technology is there for us? Like what would be your vision kind of for MGTOW moving forward? Like what would you like to see, and how would you like to kind of grow this community?
Well, I see. I do. That was great. I really enjoyed what you just said. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but what I see is I see a burgeoning community. So when something's new, okay, that's when the action is. Okay. So when for example, whether you like it or not, the first pioneers went to America. Those guys, and they were guys, women came later. They blazed the trail. Okay. They're always portrayed as evil later. Every guy that does everything is portrayed as evil later. But adventurers are not evil. Okay. A lot of guys went around the world and did a lot of cool things and figured life out for us now. And it's society will always paint them as like the worst guys. Everybody's the worst guy. Anything like the worst guy, the first guys were sexist in Silicon Valley. And meanwhile, they created the computer and the internet and now self-driving cars and things that are going to change. Like already drunk driving is down like, 30% in cities that have Uber, because some guy made Uber, right? He saved like thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives, right? But he's never thanked, right? So guys are never going to be thanked. So, and they're always going to be, always berated and always in the very worst sense. Just like that poor Ted walking by a park and seen as the worst kind of guy. Just, that's the way we are all the time. So I think that it's very, what I see the community, I do see it as a community. And just like we reached out and we got in touch with each other, right? Through Timmy, right? And I think that more and more you're going to see is, I guess, if I see one thing, I see that it starts online, right? But it's got to go offline. It's got to go offline because you can only learn so much online. Online is awesome, right? But the difference between online and offline is that you start to see, you learn more about the real person, right? And I think the offline is a key part. You can't base your life on a video, right? You have to like get deeper, before you go all the way. I could have watched all the videos about traveling the world that I wanted, but I needed to physically get out there and be in those situations and to actually be there, right? And so life is a mix of on and off. I'm not anti-online. I love the internet. I'm huge online. I spend hours looking at the computer screen every day, and I love it. I actually love it. I'm not against it. But at the same time, and just like life is a balance. It's like a chain, right? There's like 36 links, right? The weakest link is where is gonna kill you, right? You have to work on the whole chain. Unfortunately, life is a chain, and you have to work on all these little things in your life. So I see a community of guys, and I don't see it as one community. I don't see it as a MGTOW community. I see it as MRAs. I see it as MGTOWs. I see it as PUAs, and I also see it as like hardcore adventurers. So like the first guys that go to the moon, the first guys that go to the bottom of the ocean. There was some guys. There's a really interesting story about the first guys who went to the bottom of the ocean under a metal dome. These motherfuckers. Oh, you got to read the story. It will blow your mind. It's such a guy thing to do. You can't believe it. It's like you're literally reading the story like, how the fuck are these guys this ballsy? Back in like the 1800s or whatever. Insane. They went down deeper than anybody goes today back then. And I'll put the link below. But so I think that it's a bunch of guys who are pushing the boundaries. They're shedding off all the things they don't need. So it's like, imagine a car, like a Cadillac, right? In the 50s, had all these chrome bumpers, right? And all this heavy stuff and like these big fancy, wheel wells and stuff. It's like one by one, taking it all off, taking all these things that don't matter to you and getting down to the engine and the fucking steering wheel, you know what I mean? The blinkers and the windshield, and just getting it down to the lightest possible thing. It's going to corner a million times better. It's going to get a million times better gas mileage. It's going to be way more what you want, right, to drive, And it's like, I think that's what guys are. It's like you're shedding the shit that you thought you needed. You're losing it. And then you're getting down to the core, and also you're adding new things. So in the case of like totally changing things, you're getting like a Tesla electric engine, a motor, instead of a gas. So sometimes you need this heavy surgery as a guy, Other times it's like shedding shit that you realize you didn't even give a fuck about, and you're wasting all this time fucking carrying fucking shit and storing in storage sheds, and then one day you realize none of it means shit to me, Fuck all this shit, And so I think that I see the MGTOWs and the men's community in general. I see it as together as one piece, and I see them all as valuable. And I also see, I'll say one last thing. I tell you, Chris, this is one thing pisses me off when I go back to America. I see a lot of scams when I go home. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. So I'm in the LA airport, right? And I had to send an email. I didn't have a US phone. So they told me there's a business center, but it was like $50 to go in there. So I had to send one email. This is a few years ago. And it was like $50 to go to the fucking business center. And I'm like, that's fucking highway robbery. That's bullshit. You know what I mean? I am not going to pay $50 to send an email. So then I thought, well, I'll try to call the guy. So then I go to the phone and I bought like a card, and it was like $20. And then because I couldn't put in, I didn't have enough coins, right? You know what I mean? You need like all these quarters to do a long distance call. So so I'm like, oh fuck, I tried to get coins and nobody would give me coins, right? Like Americans won't give you change, right? So I'm like, I'm like trying to be nice. I'm trying to buy like coffees and stuff. I'm not getting enough coins because I needed like $5 in coins just to talk for a few minutes to this guy, right? So I'm like, fuck, this doesn't work. And I had like 16-hour layover, so I had plenty of time to think about this. So then I bought the $20 card, and then the card was a scam. It didn't work, right? So there it was right next to the phone. So long story short, I think a lot of Americans are so used to scams surrounding them everywhere that they don't even know that there's like a kind of a pure world out there. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying it's perfect, and you have to watch out for scams in every country, and there's different kinds of scams, and that's one of the things to staying healthy and staying good. But I think in America there's just a lot of stuff that I just look at like, what the fuck is wrong with people? Like the government should stop them from selling scams in the airport. Like that card did not work, right? I tried every way I could to use it. It didn't work, right? And so I just think that Americans are almost numb to scams. Like everybody always wanting something. Everybody always like selling some stupid pill that doesn't work. And I just don't resonate with that. I don't make money that way. I never have made money that way. And I don't like scams. I'd rather be homeless. And I'm not kidding. Like I literally would. I don't mind cruising around and having, that doesn't bother me. That's like solitude and freedom. So I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I don't want to make money that way. And I think what I see the MGTOW community and PUA and MRAs and like I say, adventurers, like real mountain climbers and real fucking guys who really get out there. They don't give a fuck about money. They want to fucking climb mountains all day. You know, that's what they're into, right? I see like a community of, I see a bunch of guys who actually give a fuck about things. You know what I mean? Like men's issues aside, like they actually care about stuff. Like if you cheat them, they're going to say, you cheated me. Like they're not going to let it go like easy. Like they're like, what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to be a cheater? Do you want to be, is this the future you want for yourself as a man? You know, I've told people this when they scam me. You know, the guy's like, when I'm done with my speech, they almost want to give me the money back because they feel bad. They're like, oh man, this guy actually called me on my shit, you know? Like I've done that before. And I think I've actually changed a couple guys thinking. It's like, dude, how do you want to live your life? Like, what do you want to do with your life? For myself, I always want to find more truth. And I want to be in friends that I can trust, that are with me, you know? And so I see it as a very sincere community. So that's one of the key things I see in this burgeoning community of guys who are trying to figure out life. They're not perfect. You know what I mean? Their solutions, not every single video is going to be the God's honest truth about everything, right? But they're searching. You know what I mean? And when they're wrong, they admit it. So I think that's another thing too, is the ability to admit you're wrong, the ability you don't know. It's like the scientific method of your fucking life. And that's what I see. And it's the only way that guys are going to get to the next level, because we can't get there by being angry. We can't get there there is no path for us. Like there's no path for me, even basically being MGTOW for like 30 years. There's no path for me. Every day I have to figure shit out. And I'm always like, oh, I learned something new. Like, oh, that's interesting. You know, like now I'm thinking about all kinds of stuff like longevity and things like that. Like I really want to live long. And the only way I'm going to do it is by avoiding like longevity scams and stupid pills and finding out things that actually work from like sincere guys who actually know something, right? And actually, you know, fitting it with my body and myself, right? You know what I mean? Like I got the shape that I'm in, and I'm proud of it, right? You know what I mean? Like I'm fucking proud of it. Let's show you again here, guys. This is me at 50 fucking 2 years old, and I don't take any pills. I don't take fucking aspirin. Like I don't take anything. I don't go to any doctor. The last time I went to a fucking doctor was when I fucking hurt my knee playing football and destroyed my knee. That was the last time I went because I had to get these injections in my knee. You know, I don't go to the doctor. I don't take any like weird things. It's all basically, I figured out a lot of little things about life, sleeping and just how to sleep, how to keep the humor up. It's all important. It's a mix, right? So I think that what I see the MGTOW community is a sincere group of guys, and basically fuck off if you're not like this. Like if you're not sincere, if anybody is like, if you're like still in the matrix, because part of the matrix is being a scumbag, I think. I think a lot of MGTOWs don't accept that. They don't really realize that. If you're out there, look at yourself in the fucking mirror. You know, I mean, look at the way you live your life. And if you don't like what you see about yourself, stop complaining about women first. Look at yourself in the fucking mirror. You got to fix yourself first, right? You can't fix everybody else. But if you look at yourself sincerely in the mirror, you're going to start to see things you don't like. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And I think that is one of the key things that I saw in you in that video, and I've seen in other guys, and I think that is the beginning of knowledge, and that's the beginning of change. And it's okay to be wrong too. You know, it's like, man, I was wrong about that. I'm wrong about everything, man. I mean, I'm wrong about fucking, you know, so many things. Like when I was in college, I'll tell you this story. My economics teacher, right? He said, you know, like foreign exchange, right? We were all interested in foreign exchange, right? Because it seems like an easy way to make money. And so he said, how many of you guys are right 80% of the time? And then, you know, people raise their hand. He said, okay, well, how many of you guys do you think you're right like 70% of the time? And then we, you know, raise our hand. And then he got down to 50, right? And then nobody raised their hand because everybody was higher than 50, right? And then he said, man, it's been great to meet you guys because all you guys are going to be trillionaires. And he said, you're all going to be trillionaires. And we were like, we were totally confused, right? But this guy was a genius teacher, too. He was a genius. He said so many interesting stories. I'll say in other videos, too. But he said, Because if you're right, even 50.001% of the time, you're going to be a trillionaire. Because all you got to do is take that knowledge, consistently bet on the foreign exchange market, and you will be insanely wealthy beyond past Bill Gates or whoever is the most successful guy in the world. And we were like looking at each other like, did this guy just fucking totally own us or what? and then he's like, we realized that and then he said, look at yourself. You're wrong like 80% of the time. He said that's the way you are. If you don't realize that, you're fucking stupid. You don't have any education. You're not realizing, He says the only way that you change is basically like by admitting where you're at now, and then realizing where other people are at, right? And so I think for myself, like that total lack of pride and getting rid of the male pride is a really key thing. It's a very important thing to growing to the next stage. And I see that kind of like, I see the flame, I see the smoke, I see a few flames here and there of this in the community of guys who are really trying to see deeper in themselves and to change, and also to call out things that they see in the world. And that's what I'm interested in. That's what I see. I see like more search for truth in ourselves and improvement. I don't even like the word truth because it's too overused, but I see, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Right. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned, the online versus offline aspect, because I think we've, especially on YouTube, there's been a lot of content producers, there's been a lot of content put there, but it's all kind of sitting on this online platform. Like, I think at some point in the near future, hopefully there'll be some kind of offline meeting place where, MGTOW, like you can see different MGTOWs getting together in real life and going fun, maybe creating content, maybe sharing stories about how to improve each other, how they improved, or even stories about mistakes that they made, I think are equally as helpful. But maybe something like that, where, it's kind of like the first kind of meeting of the minds of the MGTOW minds, kind of thing. So, hopefully that will be coming here in the near future, because I think that's the next progressive step. Like, you had these, just for example, like what we talked about earlier with PUA, and then it was all online forums, and then PUA started to get together in their local communities and going out and doing night game, day game, and things like that. So I think in a similar way, having a MGTOW, because there's MGTOWs all over the world. Like, I'm sure you've seen this, where you get comments from the Middle East, from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, just really everywhere, South America. And if there's a way globally where we could get together in real time, in real person, and share each other's stories and self-improvement, and then taking that to the next level, where people in their own local territories, their local communities, their local provinces get together and continue that kind of self-improvement and sharing stories. And you talked about the 12-step program and how successful that is. Something similar, where we're meeting face to face and we're taking it to the next level. Because I know anytime that I've had that real world exposure to different programs, or if I went to like a Russell Brunson ClickFunnels type of event, just the experience of being there in person is just, it trumps online like 100 times. Like, you get so much out of that, and then meeting people face to face. So hopefully in the near future something like that will be out there. But
Right.
Paul, sorry, Ronin, Ronin, man, I really appreciated you taking time today to talk with me. It was really good to learn a little bit more about you and hear your great stories. I'm super excited to be kind of networking with you and speaking with you, man. So I look forward to doing another video with you, and I really appreciate your time today, bro.
All right, Chris. Yeah, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you reaching out, and like, it's meant a lot to me. And it's like dragging this stuff out of me is good for me too, because I'm going to go back and watch this too, because I want to see myself from the outside too, right? You know what I mean? This is not some canned fucking answer, you know what I mean? Like, we're trying to figure this shit out. So Dude, I love it, man. Thank you so much, really. And thanks for the shout out on your video too. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think more and more I'm going to start promoting other channels and reaching out and kind of pulling together our resources and kind of really growing this, this philosophy. So, yeah, I appreciate it, Ronin. Yeah, man, we'll hit you back with another video, and thanks for having me on.
All right. Sounds great, man. Thanks, Chris. Take it easy, man. Have a good one.
All right. Cheers, man.